Hey guys, welcome to Data Track, your one-stop channel for all the data science and machine learning updates. Continuing our discussion in the linear regression series, today we'll talk about different variations of linear regression. In the series so far, we have looked at introduction to linear regression, how it's solved using analytical and numerical solutions. We also touched upon the assumptions of linear regression, feature importance and goodness of it. And continuing that, today we are looking at the variations of linear regression. So let's get started. A quick recap, linear regression is a linear model and it assumes that there is a linear relationship between the input variable x and the output variable y. Like in the first two plots, as x increases, y either increases or decreases but in linear fashion. But in third plot, the relationship between y and x is non-linear and linear regression is only capable of modeling linear relationships. Some terminologies, when there is a single input variable x, it's called a simple linear regression, and when there are multiple input variables, like in this case x1, x2 and so on, it's called multiple linear regression. And this is how the equation of linear regression looks like, where beta naught, beta 1, beta 2s are the coefficients that we estimate, while x1, x2, xp, these are the independent variables. They are also called x variable, predictors or the explanatory variables. While on the other hand, y is the response variable, that is the continuous value which we are trying to predict. It's also called dependent variable and it's also called y variable. And the use cases where linear regression is used, it's used in demand forecasting, it's used in finding relationship between parameters. Like in this case, we are finding a relationship between y and all the x, where x1, x2 all are different features. And it's also used in predicting continuous value, so it's used in capacity planning kind of use cases. Moving on to the very first variation of linear regression, it's called polynomial regression. And this is also an interesting regression because this is the first non-linear model that we will look at. Polynomial regression is a form of regression analysis in which the relationship between the independent variable x and the dependent variable y is modeled as an nth degree polynomial in x. And although the polynomial regression fits a non-linear model to the data as a statistical estimation problem, it is linear. For that reason, it's a special case of multiple linear regression. So let's understand in bit more depth what is it. We take the features and raise them to some nth power like x square, x cube or any nth power, and then we run the linear regression model. And why is that useful? That can be explained in two ways. One is through graphical method and other is through a real life example. We can understand it. So if we see this graphical example, x is the input variable and y is what we are trying to predict. Now, no matter how my linear regression line could be, it's no way that the model will do good fit to this data. While on the other case, if I model y with respect to x square and then run a linear regression, the model does pretty good job. So this is one of the example where we saw graphically why it makes more sense to model y with respect to some nth power of x because the distribution of data is in that way. And looking at one of real life example, it can happen that car sales in units depends on the third exponent of city development index. That is, more developed the city is, more will be the car sales, but not directly depending on the development index, but on the third power of it. So in that kind of case, it makes more sense to apply or go for polynomial regression. So polynomial regression is a very powerful model, but with great power comes responsibility as well. So definitely there are some points that we need to be careful while you going for polynomial regression. First is the model is powerful. It is able to model non-linearly separable data that normal linear regression can't, and it is more flexible to model fairly complex relationships. We have the full control over the modeling, that is which exponent to set, and this also leads to careful designing of the model. We need to be very careful while using the right value of that exponent. If we take the last example of the sales in units of car depending on the third power of city development index, let's say instead of that third power we had used fourth or fifth power of city development index, what would have happened? The model would have overfitted the training data and the performance in the unseen data or test data would have degraded. So having the right domain knowledge and doing the proper cross validation to find the right or best exponent is very much important, and it's prone to overfitting if the exponent is poorly selected. Like in this example, if we model with x, it's not able to explain the data well, but if we use second power, it is able to model the relationship better. And if we use higher exponential power, the performance in training set is pretty good, but it's overfitting and the performance in the test set or unseen data degrades. So with that, we have looked at polynomial regression and where is it useful and what points we need to be careful while going for it. Let's also look at what are the other reasons when a linear regression can fail and what are the possible fixes. A classical linear regression model can fail due to the presence of multicollinearity. Multicollinearity is the phenomenon when an independent variable can be expressed as a linear combination of other independent variables. The assumption is that all the independent variables should be independent. They should have nothing to do with each other. But in case that is violated, it leads to multicollinearity. And if we fit a linear regression model in that case, the coefficients obtained are not statistically significant. And this is also one of the assumptions of linear regression that we have seen in the past video. The other reason when linear regression model can fail is when the number of independent variables are larger than the number of observations. Let's try to understand with simple mathematics. If you have 3 equations to solve and you have 5 variables, there can be different permutation combination values for those variables can exist that can satisfy the equation because you have more variables than the number of equations. So same thing, if we have more independent variables than the number of observations, the estimates can be invalid because there can be infinite solutions and the results may not be statistically significant. So these are the two reasons, two very main reasons when a linear regression can fail. Now doing a deep dive of the first one, multicollinearity, how to detect the presence of multicollinearity or correlation in the data. So some of the tests can be a regression coefficient is coming to be non-significant, that is the p-value is greater than 0.05. But theoretically, we know that variables should be highly correlated with y. From the domain knowledge, we know that variables should have correlation with y, but the regression coefficient is coming non-significant because there might be some other variable which is providing the same information and explaining the data. Other reason can be when we add or delete a variable, the regression coefficients start changing dramatically. Like in the previous example, where one of the variables that should have been significant but is not coming significant because of some other variable's presence. It can happen if we remove that other variable, this variable will start become significant. So that significance is changing, insignificance is changing to significant. This type of things can happen, and also the coefficients can change dramatically. So this is an indicator that there is something wrong and maybe the presence of high collinearity in the data. Other is the feature variable x has high pairwise correlation. We can look at the correlation matrix and remove variables, like just keep one of them which are having very high correlation. And how to tackle or minimize multicollinearity? First of all, we can do the feature selection. We can detect the features which are highly correlated and remove some of them. And also we can do something like forward selection or backward selection. Other is dimensionality reduction. Suppose I have n features, which means that I have an n dimensional space. With dimensionality reduction, what we can do is we can transform this n dimensional space into some other n dimensional space where each dimension is pretty independent of each other. And the methods by which we can do is we can use PCA, matrix factorization, autoencoder, t-SNE or UMAP. And apart of them, there is one more method which is pretty powerful to reduce or minimize the multicollinearity is regularization. And this method is so powerful that it gives rise to various variations of linear regression which are very powerful and stable. So understanding regularization and regularized regression. Regularization is a process of introducing additional information in order to solve an ill-posed problem to prevent overfitting. One way to regularize is to add constraint or penalty. So what is happening here, a part of the loss function, like for linear regression the loss is ordinary least square, we will keep that loss function, but we will also add some additional constraint penalty. What is that? We'll look in depth. And what happens because of that, suppose these red ones are my training data and model was fitting the blue line. Clearly it's a overfitting, it's trying to mimic each and every data point, but due to this penalty, instead of blue line, the fitted line will be a green line, which is less prone to overfitting and it will perform better in a unseen or test data. So that is what it's mentioned here, that because of regularization it can happen, the bias of the model can increase but the variance will reduce drastically. And what is bias and variance? In machine learning we seldom talk about bias variance trade-off. Bias is the error in the training data and variance is the error in the testing data. Because of this regularization it can happen, the error on the training data can slightly increase but it will drastically reduce in the unseen data or test data. And the three most powerful forms of constraints used for regularized linear regression are ridge regression, lasso, and elastic net. So first of all, we will look at ridge regression. Ridge regression is also called L2 regularization. It adds a constraint that is a linear function of the squared coefficients. So let's understand with this equation. The first term is ordinary least square that we have already seen. Y is the value that we are trying to predict and x is the input variable, W are the coefficients. So this is the ordinary least square. A part of that, in regularization we add the penalty, and that penalty in ridge regression is the squared coefficients value. So what will happen because of this? Each feature should add information that is meaningful and which reduces the loss, and the reduction in loss should be more significant than the penalty incurred due to it. Addition of every feature will add some coefficient, and if we are penalizing on squared of that coefficient, there is a penalty on it. So the reduction in loss should be more significant than the added penalty. And in case some of the feature is adding very less information but the penalty is more, that variable's coefficient will shrink to 0. That is, the model will try to not use it at all. That is the overall idea of regularization. So what are the key points about ridge regression? It penalizes the less influential features and avoids overfitting. It shrinks the value of coefficients but doesn't reaches 0. So the value of the less influential features will shrink. It will go close to 0 but not 0. And also the analytical solution exists. We have seen in the first slide how to solve linear regression using analytical solution and also numerical solution. For ridge regression, both the solutions exist, that is analytical and numerical solution. And another advantage of ridge regression is the analytical solution is more stable. The reason is that in case of high correlation, the feature matrix X may have a rank less than P, which is the number of regressors. So in that case, the inverse of X transpose X won't exist. So the inverse of the matrix doesn't exist, and that will result in unstable coefficients. But in the ridge regression, because of this added penalty, lambda I also gets added. Since the matrix inverse will exist, we get more stable betas. And this value of lambda can be cross-validated, that what is the right penalty to be added. With that, let's move to lasso regression. Lasso is known as L1 regularization. It also penalizes the model but on the absolute weight coefficient. You can see the absolute value, while in the ridge it was squared coefficient value. The advantage of adding penalty with absolute weight coefficient is that it results in feature selection or sparsity. Let's understand it better. So here also the coefficients will shrink. In ridge the coefficients shrink close to 0 but not 0, but here the inbuilt property of lasso makes sure that many of the coefficients becomes exactly 0, and this is also called sparsity. Why is that? We will look into that, but this is the advantage of lasso. And similarly to ridge, here also the penalty is added, which is the absolute value of weight coefficients. Next, let's try to understand why lasso shrink coefficient to 0 and ridge shrinks the coefficient closer to 0 but not exactly 0. If we see with this graphical representation, the red lines or the ellipsoids are the contours of the loss function, while green ones is the constraint function added in case of ridge, while green is the constraint function added in case of lasso. If you see the L1 comparing to L2, the ellipsoid has a tendency to touch diamond shape constraint at the corner, and what will happen in the corner? The beta 1 will be 0 and beta 2 will have some value, while in this case beta 2 will have some value, beta 1 will be close to 0 but not exactly 0. So the capability of ellipsoid to touch one of the corner is more because of the way constraints are set in lasso, on contrary to the ridge constraints. And let's also talk about one more variation of linear regression, which is elastic net. Elastic net is a combination of both L1 regularization and L2 regularization. it both shrink the coefficient and eliminate some of the insignificant coefficient. That is, it does the best of both the worlds. Shrink the coefficient rich, eliminate some of the insignificant coefficient, that is lasso. And this is how the equation of elastic net looks like. This is the ordinary least square, this is the penalty added on the absolute value of the coefficient, and this is the penalty added which is on the squared value of the coefficients. And lambda 1 and lambda 2 can be cross validated, that what is the right value for these parameters to be set. With that, we come to the end of this video. So we have completed the theory of linear regression, where we started with intro, assumptions, variable importance and goodness of it, and today finally we looked at variations of linear regression. The variations of linear regression is also very important, because depending on a use case, you can decide on which variation of the linear regression to use. So apart of lasso, ridge and elastic net, there are more variations like constrained linear regression and so on, which I haven't discussed, but you can definitely go and look at them. As a next step in this linear regression series, we will do a practical example of all the learning that has happened in this series, and it will be fun. With that, please like the video if you enjoyed the content, subscribe to the channel so all the new videos whenever it comes, it's in your recommendation, and do let me know your comments if you have any. See you in the next video. Bye.